At a forum organized in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service seeks to have both sides deliberate on practical ways to avoid police-media clashes, especially with a recent case involving my colleague here at JoyNews, Latif Idris. Latif Idris was assaulted 4 months ago at the police headquarters, something that has left him with head injuries. Let's now go live to the police headquarters for more.
The duties of the journalists to obtain information and the duties of the police to maintain public order and the safety of all. It is our expectation that this workshop will give us the platform to discuss issues such as police public management order principles vis-à-vis the safety of journalists, and develop a framework on how the police should operate to ensure mutual understanding between the police and, of course, the media. I also thank the police administration for giving us this support so that at the end of the day, we will come out stronger and more focused to deliver the best and excellent services to the people of this country. I would urge all court participants to discuss these issues devoid of emotions, because at the end of the day, it is expected that we will come out with a framework that will guide us in our operations. And we have already approached the Media Foundation for West Africa, and it is expected that we will extend this forum to other parts of the country so that we have a better framework for police-media relations. On this note, I want to welcome all of you to the police headquarters. Thank you. As I indicated, this program is with the support of the Media Foundation for West Africa. So I would invite Mr. Suleiman Brema, the Executive Director, to give us some remarks.
Thank you very much. The Inspector General of Police, distinguished senior police officers, our colleagues from media stakeholder institutions, the Chairperson, Editors Forum Ghana, the representative of UNESCO, and of course at the UN level, UNESCO is the umbrella body that is in charge of media development and safety of journalist issues. Mr. George Sapong, my brother, Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, Gloria Hiaji, the Executive Secretary of Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association. And I should also say that we also have Mr. Gatetego, who is a member of the Council of the Ghana Community Radio Network. Originally, he was supposed to be here, but our usual traffic, he couldn't get here in time. So Mr. Gatetego is seated somewhere at the back there, and in due course, I think we'll get him up here. Now, over the last 18 months, the Media Foundation for West Africa will do regional monitoring of media trends, and by regional, I mean West Africa. And Ghana happens to be one of the countries that happens to be recording high incidence of abuses against journalists. And for the last 18 months, our data shows that there have been about close to 20 journalists who have been abused across our country. Some of these abuses have been by security personnel, but also others by either political party activists, organized groups, and civilians. Now, our view is that whether or not the perpetrators are members of the security forces or organized group, political activists, or civilians, the police has a critical role to play, because ultimately we will look up to the police to find a solution to such violations against journalists. And around the world today, the safety of journalists is an important issue. And at the UN level, 2 resolutions have already been adopted, and currently a new resolution is being worked on that is focusing on prevention rather than investigating crimes or offenses that have occurred against the media. And over the last 2-3 years, we've also worked quite closely with the Ghana Police Service, and we do appreciate the commitment and support from the leadership of the police here. In 2016, during the elections, we had the support of the leadership of the police to organize a similar forum with journalists. And thankfully, the elections passed and there were no incidents against the media. Based on the commitment and the professionalism exhibited by the Ghana Police Service, when the Liberian elections were up, we sought permission from the IGP, and he graciously honored us with 2 personnel who accompanied us to Liberia to share the experiences from Ghana. And the Liberian Police Service deeply appreciated the level of knowledge, the level of professionalism that was shared with them. We did the same thing when the elections were up in Sierra Leone just a few months ago. Again, we had officers from the Ghana Police Service to join their colleagues in Sierra Leone to interact with the media and share with them some best practices that they've learned over the years in Ghana. And we thought that this is something that is so commendable. And of course, even as we have issues relating to abuses against journalists by some police officers, the solution is not to say that we would not want to talk with the police. We think that the way forward is to dialogue. Because sometimes some of these acts that are committed against journalists, if you look into it carefully, you may say, well, the journalist may not have handled himself or herself well. At other times, too, the journalist may have done what she or she is supposed to do, but perhaps the police officer may not have also acted the way it ought to be. So the best thing is to have a dialogue, to have a conversation, come up with a framework that would guide us going forward. And that is why we are deeply happy that the leadership of the police administration thought that it's important to build bridges between the police and the media, and to have such a conversation as we are having today. And to my colleagues from the media, editors, and all others, we are also grateful that you made time to be with us this morning. And so I believe that we're going to have a very fruitful discussion. It's not the usual thing where it's a press conference, at the end of it, the media have departed. This is about the media, and we would want to hear from you. We would want to discuss the issues with you. So that going forward, if you are beaten by a police officer, we will say, but police, you told us that going forward you won't do this, or if we do this, that's when you do that. So why is this happening? So it's my fervent hope that we would have a very fruitful deliberation. And once again, thank you very much to the IGP and his team for accepting us here and for agreeing to have this kind of conversation with us. I thank you very much.
So those are live visuals coming to you from the police headquarters here in Accra. And what's happening is that the Media Foundation for West Africa is organizing a forum in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service to try and find a roadmap or a framework for media-police relations in the country. And ACP David Ekulu, who is Director of Public Affairs at the Ghana Police Service, has spoken. He spoke about the fact that they hope to extend this forum to other parts of the country. You just heard, just gone by, was Suleimana Brahima with the Media Foundation for West Africa talking about the statistics they've gathered over the past 18 months studying the West African sub-region, and the fact that Ghana has recorded over 20 cases of assault on media persons coming from the police or security personnel, political activists, and the general public, and some organized groups as well. But let's just take you back to the premises of the police headquarters for more.
Police here. I first of all wish to thank the police administration and the Media Foundation most heartily for giving us this opportunity to be part of this encounter. For us at the Media Commission, we find this issue a very exciting issue in the sense that one can only, in our view, describe the relationship between the police and the media with the language of the drum poetry of Ghana. In the sense that we are so umbilically tied that if you wanted to drill it down to the most basic, we are involved in the same pursuit of developing a good society capable of living for everybody. There are things that we do together, including collecting information in the case of the police to create better safety, In the case of the media, to inform society. And we rely on each other so strongly. Media relies on police as sources of information. Police is relying on media for public education and dissemination. So in essence, it is just right that because of the nature of the closeness of our relationship, we should have some conflicts. And I think the defining reality is that whereas the police deals with real physical threats to our physical safety, issues about their work is framed in life and death matters, blood and life. It is fairly easy in moments like that to feel that notions about press freedom and press are abstract when you are faced with concrete realities of human life. However, it is also true that in service to that same humanity, how the public understand the work that the police do is critical. And that is why we are going to keep to have these conflicts. My happiness is that the foundation proposes for us a movement towards developing a framework that manages that kind of relationship. And I'm happy, extremely so also, because at the National Media Commission itself, this is something that we had tried before. We set up a consultative forum between the police and the commission. And we had very, very useful interaction. At the time, we had thought that we needed to develop together some defense advisory that details out how this relationship should be framed. It appears to me it's upon deeper reflection of these issues that the foundation comes and we are moving towards a more concrete product in terms of guidelines. This is something that makes the commission happy. We can only say we thank the police administration and the foundation and offer our support for the project in whatever way we can help to create a better framework of relationship between the police and the media. Thank you very much.
You just heard Mr. Sapong of the National Media Commission also speaking on the relationship between the media and police here in Ghana. We'll be bringing you more as they seek to develop a framework to guide the relationship between Ghanaian journalists and security personnel, police to be precise. For now, at least that's what we know. And we are being told that this forum hopefully will be extended to other parts of the country. Recently, we've had some cases, even here from the multimedia group, our own Latif and a colleague at Adum, who was not assaulted by police but by a political party activist. And that's what Mr. Suleimana Brahima spoke about a while ago on the number of cases that they've observed, 20 over the past 18 months. It's an interesting conversation we are hoping to bring you. So let's just head back to the police headquarters.
Because although the media and the security services can be said to underpin the nation, too often there is lack of understanding between us. Indeed, so important is this issue to the EFG that 10 years ago, when we decided to launch a series of public activities, the very first one was a symposium under the topic Reporting Issues Bordering on Security, the Perspectives of the Army and the Police. It took place on September 10, 2008 at the Press Center, and the speakers were the heads of public relations of the Army, Colonel E.W.K. Nibo, and the then DSP Kwesi Ofori, representing the police service. I recall that it was extremely well attended, and the camaraderie exhibited was so overwhelming that the unanimous decision was that we should have many more of such meetings. However, despite the cordiality of the proceedings, I'm sorry to say that we have not been able to organize another one. However, as the Media Foundation is part of the media family, I think I may be permitted to say that today's dialogue is in part a continuation of that 2008 initiative, unless Mr. Brahma vehemently disagrees with this proposal. Sule? Okay. And I recall that there was an earlier one, also organized by the Media Foundation, at the Sun Lodge Hotel in 2016. What I stated in my welcome remarks in 2008 still remains true, perhaps even more so, that the topic is of interest to the whole society, not just to the media and the police, because, as indicated earlier, both the police and the media have crucial roles to play in the nation, complementary functions. The Ghanaian media is operating in a minefield as the society is so polarized. Almost everything, every development is viewed in a political light, and I'm not telling you anything new. It's gotten to a point that even when people go to the market, they are almost asking, is this NPP or NDC cassava? This is why the media and the police need to be able to work together in the national interest and in harmony, to be seen as non-partisan and fair to all, doing our work professionally. We need to be seen to be collaborating to serve the nation better. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes the signals are disturbing. I recall that some years ago, when I was the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, I was embarrassed at a function by a senior police officer when I asked for his contact, as is the habit of journalists. To my surprise and embarrassment, he told me he could not give me his contact because he had made it a rule never to give his contact to people. Yet this was a senior police officer who was often in the news, so he was no stranger to the media. If he wasn't ready to give his contact to a media person, and no less a person than the GJA president, then how did he see his relationship with the media? I wondered. In any case, did I look like the type of person who would use his name to go and borrow money? We have had many occasions to question how the police see us because of the way some of them treat journalists, including instances of downright intimidation and even assault. I stress that it is some police officers. But even if it is only one or two, in my view, it is one too many. It simply shouldn't happen, and not from any quarters either. We should be partnering one another, police and media, giving due recognition, educating where necessary. We cannot see ourselves as enemies. And of course, mere embarrassment such as I suffered is nothing compared to physical harm. We are all aware of the current agonizing case of our multimedia colleague, Latif Idrisu, of the Multimedia Group, who has suffered what may be lifelong health impairment from an assault reportedly by some police right here. However, personally, I think that in such matters, dialogue is vital. And it's my view that when two groups have a misunderstanding, there's always the need for a neutral person or body to mediate, to make peace. Those of you who follow our customs, notably Akan customary practices, will have observed that many traditional areas have a Jantua Hini or a Jantua Hima. In summary, they play the role of mediators, a traditional form of ADR, if you like. When one has a misunderstanding with another person, or even if one needs to present an apology to a chief, the Jantua Hini or Hima can be petitioned to assist. They can also intervene when there is a need, when they see a need. To me, by organizing this dialogue today, the Media Foundation for West Africa is playing that very necessary peacemaking role between the police and the media. especially in the case under reference. And that is why some of us have honored the invitation to be here. Most important of all, we believe in what this forum promises for the future, a framework, the charting of a new understanding between the two parties, free of friction and working together in harmony with mutual respect and supporting one another. I wish all of us fruitful deliberations, and I thank you for your attention.
You just heard Adjoa Yabua Afari. She's former president of the GJA, really raising interesting points and even giving a personal example of some sour relationship she had with a police officer at a particular event some years ago. She talks about intimidation, not only assault, which usually is the point of conversation when police-media relations is being discussed. But she talks about intimidation and other forms of examples that really reflect how sometimes the police and the media relate. It's some interesting deliberations we are going to have later when the actual forum starts to try and build a framework for media police relations here in Ghana. Well, so Mr. Gatetego, Ghana Community Radio Network, is going to be speaking next.
Thank you for the opportunity, and Mr. Chairman, the IGP and the police hierarchy, and members of the high table. Well, I represent the Ghana Community Radio Network. It is an organization of community radios across the country and trying to bring development through community participatory activities, and we are happy to be here. A lot has been said, so I won't say too much, but just to highlight a few issues once I have this opportunity to speak. Thank you. As I mentioned, community radio is spread across the country, and the relationship with the police has been a kind of a mixed thing, because before I came here, I needed to consult with other members with their experiences with the police. And unfortunately, most of the experiences that they brought up were negative. But there were others too that were positive. So probably I'll just cite two and then I'll be done. On the positive side, I mean, some of the radio stations are actually collaborating with the police and trying to bring some education to the public on some issues in terms of public conduct and all that. But there were other issues, for instance, a case in point in the Afram Plains, where apparently there was this demonstration. I think some police officers were suspected to have been engaged in some armed robbery, and they were let loose, and the public thought that, oh, probably there was an inside job. So the station there tried to cover this, but in the heat of things, one of the journalists was shot, and he got hurt and was hospitalized. But the point is that the police did not react to that particular situation. And I'm told that it was the MP of the area that actually took up the bills of this journalist in hospital. Another case in point happened in the north, where there is a radio station that is actually trying to relate to the police on the issue of bail. I mean, what does it mean if someone is brought to the police station and is said to be on bail? Does the person have to pay money at the police station, or the bail is held on guarantee or something like that? And there's that tussle between the police and the radio station, because the radio station feels that the police is not dealing well or right with the public. And they try to educate the public, and that brings that friction with the police. The police thinks that the radio station is trying to undermine them. My last point happened in Adan, where a journalist reporting or covering an event was attacked, had a broken arm, and the recorder destroyed. But there was no kind of response to that. We at GCRN believe that some of these things probably happen with some individual police officers, and it is not a directive from the hierarchy, from the top. But when there's no response to some of these acts, then one is forced to speculate that probably there was that intention from the hierarchy. So what we're saying is that when these things happen, they could just happen in the heat of things. But then it is necessary to at least, show some response, show some solidarity for us to believe that something is happening. And when it happens, investigations must happen faster, because we know that when the police officers are actually involved in cases, the investigations run 24 hours on the clock. But when it happens to others, it could be a perception, but when it happens to others, it becomes slow. So I think that I'll end here, and I'd like to thank you so much for this opportunity.
You just heard Mr. Gatitego of the Ghana Community Radio Network giving a number of examples of how media persons in community radio stations are treated by police personnel. He started by saying there were mixed reports, when he tried to gather some information from his colleagues, knowing very well he was coming for this program. But largely, he had negative reports. Let's now hear from a rep of Geba.
Looking forward to an opportunity like this. So with the Media Foundation for West Africa coming up with this event, we welcomed it, because then we would have the opportunity to voice out our concerns and any other issues that may come up. As media, we know that the police are supposed to be our friends and our protectors. And as media men, we also carry out our duties by being the watchdog and reporting on activities of everyone, including the media. So when an incident occurs, and as my other colleagues said, the police appear to be counter the media, it is very worrying. More so, especially as this year, Ghana hosted the World Press Freedom Day, and we moved up in the World Press Freedom Index ranking to top Africa. That was a great feat. But immediately after that, then there was quite a barrage of news coming out of police brutality against journalists. It could be, as was earlier said, that the media did not go through the right processes to carry out their duties. But we also think that it is appropriate for the police to educate the journalists or handle any situation in a much better way. We recognize that it is not all police service personnel. We recognize that it is some who are overexcited, overzealous in carrying out their duties. But then I think it would also lie on the police to sensitize their personnel so that such acts are not committed too much for the public to feel that journalists and me and the police are at loggerheads. So in effect, we are of the view that there has to be a balance in the excitement levels of the media carrying out their duties, because the media will report on every activity. Even if a pin should drop, the media would report on it. But in the same vein, the police should also please exercise some control in controlling the media when they are carrying out their duties. That's all we can say.
So So we've heard from various speakers, Media Foundation for West Africa. We've heard from a former GJA president. But this representative of GIBA thinks that in dealing with the matter, both sides should be looked at. She talked about the fact that some journalists would have to be educated on how to go about their jobs. Nevertheless, the way police have handled some journalists in recent times is nothing to write home about. She made reference to Ghana hosting the World Press Freedom Day program, and shortly after we had incidents like that of my colleague Latif Idris, and she believes that Ghana topping Africa in the World Press Freedom Index was a great feat, but unfortunately we have issues like this. Well, it's now time to hear from the UNESCO representative.
Commanders, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to be here on behalf of the head of office of UNESCO, who is out of the country. UNESCO is the UN agency mandated by the mother organization to see to the issues of communication and information. And when it comes to the issues of freedom of expression, there are 4 planks that UNESCO work with: safety of journalists, impunity and crimes against journalists, the right to information, and freedom of expression. I think Prof in his deliberations will expand on these 4 planks. They are so crucial to the issue of freedom of expression. And I would like to also inform you that for the past 2 years, we've gone through UNESCO in Ghana, we've gone through the Ministry of Interior to actually work on a manual for the training of police commanders and then the rank and file. The discussion is ongoing. Funding, half of the funding for that development of that manual is in this year. So hopefully by the end of the year, we should be able to implement that initiative. So, and then also, somewhere ending this year, we are going to commission the School of Psychology to actually do a study on the safety of journalists in Ghana, specific Ghana, the types of crimes, the injuries and everything, so that we will have some sort of outlook into what Media Foundation for West Africa has collected a lot of data in terms of numbers. But we now want to go and look at specific incidences. So we've engaged the School of Psychology to do that. That will also come on by the end of this year. So these are the 2 basic information I want to share with you. We think it's very important. This forum is very important. And going forward, it's an entry point for me, so that going forward we can actually see to the development of the manual and an in-depth study into what is going on when it comes to crimes and impunity against journalists in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Interesting plan there shared by the UNESCO representative. Plans to have the safety of journalists studied by the School of Psychology later this year. And also, he says that through the Ministry of Interior, they have trained some police commanders. And right now, the Inspector General of Police is about to speak, and we'll take you there shortly. But briefly, what's happening is that a Media Foundation for West Africa and the Ghana Police Service is organizing this forum to try and draw up a framework to guide the relationship between Ghanaian media persons and the Ghana Police Service. Let's take you to the police headquarters now.
The Director General Public Affairs Directorate, Assistant Commissioner Mr. David Senanu Ekulu, my fellow police management board members here present, members on the high table, senior police officers, inspectorate and other ranks, organizers and resource persons, course participants, distinguished invited guests, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would say it's a very important day, and I consider it as one of the memorable days for the enhancement of the relationship between the Ghana Police Service and the media. I deem it an honor and a duty to welcome all of you to the police headquarters for today's workshop on police-media relations. The date for this workshop had to change a few times because I wanted to be personally present, and I thank the organizers for this opportunity. Policing is deemed to be a shared responsibility, although the Ghana Police Service is the organization constitutionally mandated to protect lives and property, prevent and detect crime, and generally to ensure peace, safety, and security in the country. The important role of the media in facilitating police professionalism cannot be overemphasized. The media is the voice of the voiceless, the eyes of the blind, and the ears of the deaf. The media has been a reliable strategic partner for the police. We serve as a mirror to lay bare our shortcomings, to enable us continue to learn and develop. The unique role played by the media in keeping internal security can therefore not be understated. It is for this and many other reasons that the same Constitution of Ghana, which mandates the police service to work as a law enforcement agency, also guarantees freedom and independence of the media. Yet, in carrying out the police constitutional mandate of ensuring general peace and security within the country, the police, as a human institution, sometimes operate in a manner that appears to threaten the freedom and independence guaranteed the media by the Constitution. There have even been times when journalists, in their quest to seek information, and also whilst covering special events, such as demonstrations, have come in the way of the police, leading to frictions and misunderstandings between the police and journalists. The infrequent excesses of the media and the police should not always be of primary interest to us. These few occurrences must not mar our mutual relationship that inures to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. Let us be slow in highlighting on imperfections, but quick in projecting the positives of our synergy. It is for this reason that the police administration, through our public affairs departments, is collaborating with Media Foundation for West Africa to organize this one-day forum on police-media relations. It is my hope that this forum will discuss frankly all the issues that lead to or may lead to police-journalist clash, police-journalist conflict, or police-journalist misunderstanding, and find solutions to them. Today, I want us to wear solution-oriented glasses and do away with our problem-oriented positions. It is my hope that this forum will strengthen relations between members of the Ghana Police Service and the media in Ghana and beyond. I do further hope that this forum will navigate mutual understanding of the roles of the police and the media for safe, secure, and peaceful communities in Ghana. I believe that this forum will build the capacity of police officers and journalists on effective media handling and conduct during police operations. Finally, it is my hope that this forum will offer an opportunity for participating police officers and media representatives to brainstorm and come out with blueprints for developing a manual that will guide police-media relations, especially during major police operations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worth mentioning that under this administration, we shall continue to pursue a robust transformation in the police service that is aimed at actualizing the vision of the Ghana Police Service to be a world-class police organization capable of delivering planned, democratic, protective, and peaceful services up to the standards of international best practice. It is therefore envisioned that at the end of this one-day forum, both institutions will appreciate our working protocols, which will go a long way in curbing future misunderstandings between the police and journalists, and their resultant negative impact on the safety and security of ourselves as well as the citizens we serve. It should also strengthen our partnership in fighting crime, which is our greatest enemy. Let us direct our energies towards fighting crime instead of fighting amongst ourselves. Surely, Ghana will continue to be a trailblazer in the democratization of Africa if the police and journalists fine-tune our relationship to avoid conflicts. Colleague PUMAP members, ladies and gentlemen, it is also important to indicate that under the ongoing transformation agenda.
So you were just listening to IGP David Asante Apieto. Apologies for that. Basically, some key points from his speech there is that both factions, as the media and the police, should appreciate the working protocols so that there's no friction created in delivering the job mandates. Now, he also mentioned, I think, the key thing to keep in mind, the fact that he is actually advising participants to be solution-oriented and not problem-oriented. We've got the live visuals back. Let's take you back to the police headquarters.
This holy book to serve as a guide to all police officers in their dealings with the media. And I'm sure the details of these guidelines will be made available to you very soon. As I bring my address to an end, I wish to express my gratitude to the Media Foundation for West Africa for supporting the police administration to organize this workshop, and I count on such collaboration to extend this forum to other parts of the country. I also acknowledge the resource persons who have offered their valuable time and expertise to take participants through the various topics outlined for the day. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to declare this one-day forum on police-media relations duly opened, and I thank you.
So those were live visuals coming to you from the police headquarters on the Police Media Relations Forum, hoping to build a framework to guide the relationship between the two organizations. You're watching JoyNews Desk. Up next is business.